Good morning, everyone. Today we're checking out a brand new video from Popcross Studios of turning Hollow Knight bosses into SCPs. Welcome to what I think is the fourth episode in this little mini-series he's done, but either way, let's hop into it and see who gets the SCP monster treatment.
A few weeks ago, I put out a vote for my subscribers to decide what SCPs video I was going to make next. And Mega Pokemon SCPs beat out Hollow Knight SCPs. Don't get me wrong, I'm very glad I made that Mega Pokemon SCPs episode because it turned out really well, and every drawing from it is going to end up in my Dresden Open.
I actually had just beaten that Stormy in the game yesterday, and all I can say is, damn, that thing moved way too fluidly.
SCP's handbook that I'll be putting out eventually. But this Hollow Knight SCPs episode kept tapping away at my mind, and I decided I still gotta do this one. I mean, in a way.
Nah, it was pulling Nevermore. We're just rapping at your door.
I've kinda done one before. I've done 2 Silksong SCPs episodes, and my original Hollow Knight horror story episode is set in the same universe as these, so it's basically an SCPs episode in design. But
yeah, pretty much.
Whatever. I still wanted to do this, so we're gonna do it.
Hit like if you want. Subscribe if you feel like it. By the way, enjoy the show. Alright, who's up first?
Good evening, everyone.
Oh,
as many of you know, Operative Cherry Tayama and her team have just headed back.
Oh, no, he's got the God Tamer. Oh, now remember, this guy is from the Coliseum of Fools.
Into the newly discovered territory of the subterranean world found beneath the abandoned hollows.
Sorry about that, I forgot to flip back the visuals for a second there.
Mine in Adelaide, South Australia, after a period of rest and recovery. They have yet to report back with new information or entities encountered, but due to the influx of new information from their last round of exploration, more elements of Operative Cherry's first venture into this realm, prior to her time at the Foundation and leading to her career with us, have now been lowered to clearance level 1, so details can be more openly shared today. As has been partially discussed previously, she fell into this realm while still in high school, and ventured through it with an entity hereafter referred to as SCP-H001. What I had not shared previously was that this entity is currently in a form of containment, being watched by the Foundation, and Operative Cherry is hoping that through her ventures into this realm, she will find a way to reverse the benevolent entity's current affliction status. More on that later, though, as we will begin by covering some of the other entities she encountered in her first trek through this realm. We begin today with 2 entities who share a containment cell, item numbers SCP-H097 and SCP-H098. Object classes, Euclid. Special containment procedures.
This makes sense.
H097 and H098 are to be kept in a shared cell to prevent them from attempting a containment breach. Operatives are to be cautious when entering, but visible body armor is not recommended, as H097 may see this as a challenge and urge its companion into battle with the entering operative. Description.
Oh, a challenge!
H097 is a fairly standard bipedal humanoid insect entity, like many others found in the subterranean realm. It is clad in a partial suit of armor and wields a weapon akin to a jousting lance that seems to be forged from the horn of a larger creature.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of a lance.
H098 is this entity's mount and creature companion. It bears similarities to a recently discovered entity, SCP-H207, but has only 4 legs and has a slightly more rotund shape. Operative Cherry was the first human,
definitely looks like a pail,
to observe these creatures up close. However, they were predominantly handled by her companion, H001. She and the entity came across a massive underground coliseum. Cherry could hear a raucous crowd cheering from within and thought her ally would have to be a fool to enter. But, unable to verbally communicate, H001 ventured forth, and she was unable to stop it. When they stepped inside, directly into the battlegrounds of the Colosseum, Operative Tayama was inspected by some of the supposed orchestrators, and she was pulled aside into the stands, where she was forced to watch as her ally battled wave after wave of foes. Thankfully, at this point, H001 had learned some remarkable abilities and feats, such as energy projection attacks to be used at a distance, and even the power to heal itself from minor injuries in a quick flurry of white light. Using these and its skills with the blade it carried, it was able to defeat all of the waves of foes and was finally faced with H-097 and H-098. As one might expect, the Rider, H-097, fought predominantly with its lance, spending much of the battle not astride its companion. H-098's primary form of attack was to curl into a ball like an armadillidae or pillbug and roll at H-001 like a charging boulder.
Yeah,
it also had
'em.
symptoms of an illness that, thankfully, has since been eradicated in this realm, which we have simply dubbed the Infection. Agent Tayama is the only Foundation operative to have seen it, as she was part of the solution in ridding this realm of it. But she stated that its core symptom was for creatures to drool orange acidic slime from their eyes and mouths, while becoming more violent. Many of the creatures used this as a weapon, and H-098 spat much of this slime at H-001 during the battle. Thankfully, once H-001 had done sufficient damage to the mount, the Rider surrendered the battle, seemingly to protect its companion's life.
I mean, obviously,
it was only some time later, when Operative Cherry had joined the Foundation and led an expedition into this realm, that this pair of entities was taken into containment for study.
Lancer and Mount. You had no idea what the names would be separate.
The following
Up
entity
next.
is one
it's the Dung Defender. The guy literally throwing shit.
Many operatives will do all they can to avoid entering containment with. Not because the entity is particularly dangerous, but because it is generally considered to be one of the most disgusting entities housed in Biosite 84.
Easily.
Item number SCP-H076. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. While not entirely necessary, it is strongly recommended that operatives entering containment with H076 wear some form of odor protection mask.
Yeah.
Fecal matter created by other entities from the subterranean realm is to be removed from their containment cell and put into H076's cell if its supply of dung begins to run low.
Give it crap.
Maintaining an ample supply of dung has proven enough to keep it entertained so it does not attempt containment breach. Description: H076 is a 10-foot tall bipedal humanoid dung beetle. It has a rotund form and a crimson shell. Beneath its exoskeleton appears to be a thick layer of gray fur, which can be partially seen emerging from cracks in its armor. H076's body language, by human standards, would suggest that it is incredibly boisterous and confident. While we have yet to decipher the language used by the entities of this realm, all evidence suggests that this entity
thankfully no one can speak bug.
Was, at a time,
of
great importance to some form
No.
of authority in this realm. This entity is quite a capable combatant when it is compelled into battle, and it seems to enjoy the process, but its combat methods are certainly on the unorthodox side.
Yeah, and
When
throws
Operative Cherry
shit like a
first
monkey.
encountered it with H001, it was in a cavern full of excrement, which the entity was very pleasantly basking in. When the battle began with it and H001, it began scooping up condensed balls of feces from the ground and hurling them at both Tayama and H001.
So disgusting.
That may sound more silly than useful, but keep in mind the orbs it hurls can weigh up to 400 pounds, making even a single strike from one potentially fatal to a human. Beyond hurling balls of feces, the entity's other primary form of attack was to dive into the excrement coating the floor and swim through it like a rapidly burrowing rodent, then emerge beneath its combatants, striking them with the debris that sprang up with it and with its sturdy arms. Thankfully, the entity is temporarily incapacitated when it falls onto its back, which left openings for H001 in the battle to land multiple blows. Eventually, H076 was dazed enough to fall down and stay down. Cherry and her ally moved on, and this entity was captured by the Foundation some years later, when it refused to allow operatives to traverse its region without defeating it in battle.
Yeah, I'm not fighting someone that throws shit around. Nope, I'm turning right around and leaving it. Not having any of it. Nope,
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a Popcross coloring book and some stories. Then I didn't need nothing else on the other days, cause who would ever need more than these fantastic novels and colory boys?
They all
Your
great.
singing voice is lovely, Benny. You should use it to go caroling. Right now. You're just trying to get rid of me, ain't you, Dressy boy? Yes, I feel my lack of subtlety required no explanation. Fair enough. Popcross online bookstores is linked in the description. Now back to a monotone dude talking about spooky bugs. Item number SCP-H133.
Ooh, the Crystal Guardian.
Object class,
Okay.
Euclid. Special containment procedures. Operatives are only to enter H133's containment when it has been rendered unconscious through hypnotic sound waves or other sedative means. If it awakens while operatives are within its containment, they are to vacate quickly, else risk being injured by the beams it can project from its crystalline-coated hands.
Huh.
Description.
How did he do that?
H133 is a 6 foot 11 inch tall bipedal insect humanoid with a
tall.
stout build. Its head and arms are covered in purple crystals, which it seems disinterested in having the Foundation removed from it, despite them not likely being a naturally occurring part of its biology.
No,
It has
duh.
more of these stemming from its back. This entity is not the only one from its same territory to have its body partially coated in this crystalline substance, but it was the one that provided the most substantial
You know, how does this thing actually eat, considering its mouth is covered like that?
challenge for Operative Cherry and her ally. H133 has proven capable of firing
Does it eat
concussive
parts
beams
of the
from the
crystals
crystalline
from the
forms
inside?
on the ends of its arms. These are not powerful enough to damage the walls of the average containment cell within the Foundation, but they can be fatal to the average human if struck in the head at a short range. It is believed that this ability is only achieved thanks to the crystals attached to the entity, possibly explaining why it does not want them removed. We have studied
Yeah,
this
that's
substance and
understandable.
have found it to be a highly conductive mineral, but have not yet found a way to harness the same energy projection abilities this entity has proven capable of. Operative Cherry and H001 discovered this entity in a territory of the subterranean realm that appeared to be a mine, though not the human-made mine through which Teama entered this realm. It is a mine constructed by the insectoid entities of these lands,
Half seen the
seemingly
crystals,
to
if
collect
I
the
remember
very
correctly.
substance now coating parts of H133's body. When first discovered, this entity appeared to be either asleep or deceased, but when Teama and H001 trekked closer to it, it awakened, and its glowing orange eyes suggested it was substantially afflicted by the infection. The
Oh,
violence
yeah.
invoked in it, thanks to this infection, led it to attack Operative Cherry and her ally, though you can likely see the pattern by this point. Together they were able to render it unconscious and move on with their adventure. This creature, even after recovering from the infection, was still set on guarding the mines in which it was first found. Foundation operatives
wonder
attempting to
why.
explore this region later on were regularly harassed or attacked by this entity, hence bringing it into Foundation custody for further study and containment.
Well, okay. That's 3, technically 4 entities done with. So who is up next for the last?
Item number
It's gonna be the Hollow Knight,
SCP-H181.
of course.
Object class, neutralized. Special containment procedures.
Neutral. Oh, yeah, no. To kind of make sense, you have to kill him.
While this entity was once contained by the same anomalous means through which H001 is currently contained, its body has remained a hollow shell for as long as the Foundation has been aware of.
Wait, so technically that means that the ending these guys would have experienced is pretty much just the basic ending that you would get and without all the upgrades. It's you kill the Hollow Knight and become the Hollow Knight.
Its existence. It is still contained in a cell by the Foundation, but no evidence suggests any life will ever re-enter its physical form. Description. H181 is an 8 foot 3 inch tall bipedal insect humanoid appearing very similar to H001. It was
Good question. Are you measuring from the bottom of the foot to the top of the head or to the top of the horns?
the final entity
Probably
discovered
the
by
head.
Operative Cherry and her ally during her first time in this realm, and seemed to be the very entity H001 had been searching for. Despite being unable to communicate verbally, H001 used hand gestures to explain to Operative Cherry that this entity, found bound in chains in the cavern where H001 is now housed, was the source of the infection ravaging the subterranean realm.
Or so you
more
think.
accurately, it contained within it the entity responsible.
There you go.
Now that they had found it, H001 seemed to try to lead Operative Cherry away, having also found the exit back to the surface, where Cherry could finally find safety and return home. At this point, though, she had built enough of a bond with this entity and become an adept enough fighter herself by surviving this whole ordeal that she refused to leave. She wanted to see this final battle through with H001. The entity
Makes
took
sense.
some convincing,
Well, it
but
does help
ultimately
you.
they agreed and approached H181. Some of what I will say next is speculation based on what Operative Cherry has told us about her experience and research in this realm through glyphs and artwork found there, but it is currently accepted as the truth by the Foundation. H181 was a being used as a means to contain an entity depicted in some subterranean realm art as being this realm's equivalent of the sun, or a deity considered to have traits similar to the sun. Despite
thus
divine
the name,
interpretations
the
of the sun
Radiance.
generally being regarded as a positive presence in most human religions and belief systems,
Yeah,
this
not with the
being was
bugs.
not considered to be wholly benevolent. This entity, hereafter referred to as H182, was praised as a ruler of these lands,
Okay.
but seems to have been usurped by a newcomer, a king with a pale exoskeletal head, depicted in art and
the
carvings as
Pale
appearing
King.
somewhat similar to H001 and H181. This king, being praised by the realm's residents, prompted a sort of jealous retaliation by H182, in the form of it infecting the minds of the residents of this realm, thereby manifesting symptoms of the previously mentioned infection. It seems the
Yeah.
king attempted to create
lot of
multiple
orange.
entities with hollow bodies whose forms could be powerful enough to seal H182 inside and prevent further spread of the infection. It is speculated that these entities had to be physically trained to become strong enough to contain the intended entity, and that H001 was initially considered an option, but was deemed not strong enough, hence H181 being used. We are not
Correct.
certain what became of this Pale King, but it is speculated that he simply abandoned this realm when it became clear that, well, his vessel, H181,
Yeah, no idea
was
what he
able
is.
to physically contain H182, it could not stop the infection from spreading to his subjects. H181 was simply left to contain the sun until H001 entered its cavern with Operative Cherry and began destroying the chains that held it in place. When this was done, its eyes began to glow orange, suggesting that its own body was now being controlled by the infection or by H182 itself, and it began violently attacking Operative Cherry and H001. Had they faced
Didn't
it
have
prior
full
to
control
battling
over the
myriad
body, though.
other entities from this realm, they likely would have been slain within seconds of the battle commencing. But both Operative Cherry and H001 had become hardened combatants since the start of their adventure, and together were able to significantly weaken the entity. When they had fought it long enough, the entity even began striking itself with the long blade it wielded, as if
Exactly.
regaining some control over itself and hoping to slay the entity contained within its physical form. Finally, when the foe was clearly on the brink of defeat, H001 used one of its energy projection attacks and struck Operative Cherry. It did not do this to harm her, simply to push her as far as possible away from H181, as H001 landed a final blow. Once it did, a blinding light engulfed the entire cavern. Operative Cherry stated that, well, she could not see anything for a full 5 minutes after that, and there was a significant ringing in her ears. She could make out the sounds
mega
of another
flashbang.
battle underway, one she was helpless to partake in. When the light finally cleared and Operative Cherry's senses returned, she saw that H181 was slain and H001 was now bound in the very same chains that once held the foe they had just defeated. She could make out a faint orange glow in H001's eyes, and she quickly understood that her ally had made the ultimate sacrifice to become the new containment vessel for H182. It also seems that, through its battles and travels with Operative Cherry, this entity became a more powerful containment vessel than its predecessor, as the infection has since vanished from these lands and never returned.
Yep.
Any entity that had been infected but not killed has since recovered without need of medical intervention. Like Operative Cherry, we at the Foundation are all grateful for H001's sacrifice, but we are actively seeking ways to
Rest in peace, little ghost.
free it while preventing H182's infection from emerging once more.
And thus, the Hollow Knight.
If you enjoyed this and you haven't seen my previous episodes, I'd recommend going back to either
Yeah,
my Hollow Knight
it's been
as
a while.
Horror Story episode, or my 2 Silksong SCPs episodes. And I'd also recommend subscribing if you're not already subscribed, because
Hit that
you watched
button.
this far in the video, so
And
clearly
the bell.
you enjoy the stuff I make. Or you were just scrolling on your phone or something and this was on in the background and you weren't really paying attention. But if you're hearing this, then you're paying attention now, so you could still take a sec to like and subscribe. But anyway, besides that, that's all for
Yeah.
today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of
Positive
or
or inspiring note.
And the thought I want to leave people with today is a message from the Buddha, who said, if someone offers you a gift and you do not accept, to whom does the gift belong? In the same way, if
Ooh.
someone offers you an insult or hatred or anger, and you don't take much notice or don't accept the insult, then to whom does it belong? I hope that's a helpful or inspiring
That is a
reminder
good
for
one.
any time you're faced with a person who's being unpleasant towards you. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next video on Friday. Goodbye.
Hope you all enjoyed today's episode. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of you next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.